In this lesson, we'll learn about making color selections inside Illustrator. Alright, now because color is such an integral part of Illustrator here, there's actually several different areas where we can control this color. Now, we can actually apply colors, remember, to any of the three of our appearance attributes, whether it be a stroke, a fill, or even an effect. So, I tell you what, let's go ahead and first talk about the color mode of our document. If you remember when we created a new document, let me just do that with a Control in here. Under Advanced, you can see here we have a color mode setting. Now this has to do with the desired output for your file. Are you going to be printing your file? Is your file going to be for the internet or the web, being a digital output? So we need to make sure and select either CMYK or RGB from the color mode. Now right now I've got it set to CMYK, which is intended for print. So let's go ahead and hit OK on that. We can always change the color mode for our document just simply by coming up here to File and choosing Document Color Mode, and then making the other selection, whatever we need. So now let's go ahead and talk about the first area where we can actually make color selections here inside Illustrator. Now, if we come over to our tool panel on the left, we've got our fill preview box, and we've got our stroke preview box. Now, let's just go ahead and double click on the fill color here because we don't have a stroke color. And notice here that our color panel flies out from the right, and we get a little color picker dialog that comes up. Now, if you've worked with a color picker before, this may not be anything new to you, but Illustrator does have a color picker as well. So inside this window, we have a preview area here on the left, and because we're working in the HSB, Hue, Saturation, Brightness color model, this slider in the center is actually going to control the hue. So you can see that number changes as I make changes to this slider. Now, with this preview area here on the left, this is actually going to control your saturation and your brightness for the HSB color model. Now, if we go ahead and pull this little preview circle up, you can see here that my brightness is increasing. And if we move it to the right, you can see my saturation is increasing. So this is the HSB color model. Now notice here that we've got a little warning right here, and I'm going to get another one of our warnings to come up. There's another warning. This warning right here indicates that the color we have selected is out of the range of printable colors. So in order to fix that error, we can actually just click on that little yellow triangle there, and it's going to take us to the closest printable color. Now this second warning here, this indicates that the color we have selected is not a web-safe color. So in order to fix this error, if we're outputting for the web, then we can actually just click on that again, and it's going to take us to the closest possible web-safe color. Now, we do have some other color models down here. We have our RGB color model, and this is going to change the way this area over here works. If we come over and select, say, the red channel, instead of working on percentages here, the channel options for RGB are going to be either from anywhere between 0 and 255. There's a range of steps for each channel, and we can actually adjust that for the red channel here simply by using this slider. And you can see here how that's adjusting. Now, CMYK actually works again on a based on percentages, so we can enter percentages here 0 to 100. We have a checkbox here to display only web-safe colors in case we just want to see the web-safe colors. So we also have here a color swatches button, which is going to display a number of color swatches that we can select from. So let's hit this color models option to go back to our color picker. So this is the color picker here in Illustrator. Now, to be honest, I don't use the color picker in Illustrator much because I think there are some better options for choosing colors. Now, let's go ahead and start with the first of these options. We have our color panel visible here that's expanded out from the panel dock here on the right. Now the color panel looks like a little artist palette, and you can see here that we have CMYK as our color model selected. We can change that if we want to. If say we're wanting to look at a different color model, we can come over here to this little flyout menu. I tell you what, let me just drag this out and undock it so we can see this here. So we'll hide that, and let's come over here, and we can change the color model simply by coming over here to this menu and making a new selection. Let's go ahead and select a color here. We can either drag our sliders to make a color selection, or we can use this little bar here at the bottom. Now notice here that when I mouse over that, my cursor changes to the little eyedropper tool. So right now I'm just clicking and dragging on this bar, and it's making a color selection for our fill color. So On either side of this color bar, we have a couple of other options here. We have our no fill option if we want to just cancel the fill for an object. And then we have our white swatch and our black swatch, which we can also sample with the eyedropper tool. So let me just go ahead and sample that black swatch again. Now, what's really cool about the color panel is that we don't necessarily need to come over here to this little flyout menu just to change the color model. If we mouse over this color bar at the bottom and then hold Shift and click it, you can see here that I've changed the color panel to the RGB color model. Actually, this is WebSafe RGB, and we can tell that because there's these little ticks right here. Let me go ahead and continue to click it, and you can see that I've changed to the grayscale color model. Clicking it again takes me to normal RGB, and then one more time takes me to the hue, saturation, brightness color model. If I go ahead and click that one more time, we're back at CMYK. So we can cycle through those color models just simply by holding Shift and clicking on this color bar. Now the next panel I'd like to show you here is called the Swatches panel, and we've actually been accessing it off and on throughout this course. So the swatch panel looks like a little grid of different swatches right here, and again, if you don't have either of these visible for you, you can actually show these by coming up to Window and either choosing Color or Swatches here from this drop down. And let's take a look at the Swatches panel. Now we're not going to dive too far into this right now. We're actually going to jump back on the Swatches panel in the next lesson, but you know, this is a pretty familiar panel, and we've seen this a lot. With this object selected, notice here that we have a color selection for both the fill and the stroke here in the control panel. And if we click this little down arrow here on the fill color, we're going to see a copy of our swatch panel. So we can see that in a second location. Now let me go and grab our appearance panel as well. Now if I come over and click again on this fill color drop down, we're going to see another copy of our swatches panel. So the swatches panel repeats itself throughout this interface in several different locations. Now you may be asking yourself, well, why can I access the swatches panel in so many different locations but not the color panel? Well, actually you can. We can actually access the color panel everywhere we can access the swatches panel. All we need to do is mouse over that same button selection and hold Shift to click it. So let me hold Shift and hit that drop down, and you can see here again we have the color panel instead of the swatches panel, and that works the exact same way over here in our appearance panel as well. So let me just hold Shift and click that. You can see here we have quick and easy access to our color panel. Then we can change the color models here just like we can in the original color panel. So pretty quick, pretty cool, easy way to access both your swatches panel and your color panel right from the appearance panel. Alright, so in this lesson we have talked about making basic color selections here within Illustrator. We focused on both the color panel and the swatches panel. In the next lesson we're going to pick up where we're leaving off here, and we're going to look at the swatches panel in a little more detail.